The battle was over, but the work was just beginning. Admiral Kang walked through the damaged corridors of Station Harmony 7 with slow, careful steps. Around her, human engineers repaired broken systems. Medical teams moved the wounded to proper treatment facilities. Soldiers stood guard at every junction, making sure no Keth remained hidden in the station's dark corners. She had seen the damage reports. She had read the casualty numbers. But she needed to see it for herself. She needed to understand what her people had done. The signs of fighting were everywhere. Blast marks on the walls, bloodstains on the floors, broken equipment and shattered glass. The station had become a battlefield, and it showed. Admiral Kang reached the civilian shelter. The doors opened and she stepped inside. 2,000 aliens looked at her with wide eyes. Valori, Makari, and a dozen other species huddled together in groups. They were scared and tired and confused. But they were alive. In the corner, she found what she was looking for. Captain Park Do-hyun stood with his remaining soldiers. He had refused medical treatment until all civilians were safe. His uniform was torn and stained with blood. His face was pale from exhaustion. A bandage covered a wound on his arm. But when he saw the Admiral, he straightened his back and saluted. Admiral Kang, welcome to Station Harmony 7. Kang returned the salute. Captain Park, you and your team have done something extraordinary. We did our duty, Admiral. Nothing more. Kang looked at the humans behind him. 34 survivors out of 40. 6 had given their lives to protect people they had never met. Their bodies had already been collected and prepared for transport home. 6 dead, Kang said quietly. 12 wounded seriously, against 250 Keth soldiers. She paused. The numbers should have been impossible, Captain. Do-hyun shook his head slowly. We had something they did not, Admiral. We had a reason to fight. Not for conquest. Not for glory. For the people depending on us. Ambassador Thivix approached them carefully. The old Valori diplomat had not left the shelter since the fighting began. He had watched everything. He had seen things that would stay with him for the rest of his long life. Admiral, he said, bowing his head respectfully. I am Ambassador Thivix. On behalf of all the civilians here, I thank you. Your people saved us. Kang nodded. That is what we do, Ambassador. I do not understand. Thivix's voice trembled slightly. Your ships traveled 4,000 light years in less than a day. Your fleet risked destruction for one small station. Why? What makes 40 humans worth 300 warships? Admiral Kang was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was calm and serious. Ambassador, let me explain something about humans. Our history is filled with violence and tragedy. We have made many mistakes. We have hurt each other in terrible ways. But through all of it, we learned one lesson that we will never forget. What lesson? That no one should stand alone. Ever. Kang looked at the injured humans, at the frightened aliens, at the damaged station around them. Those 40 people sent a message asking for help. That was all we needed to know. We would have come if there was only one human here. We would have come if there were none. Thivix stared at her. You would risk war for strangers? For people who are not even your species. You were under our protection. That made you our responsibility. Kang smiled slightly. Humans take responsibility seriously. The Galactic Council received the news within hours. The report spread across hundreds of worlds. A small human garrison had held off a Keth invasion force for 20 hours. Then, a human fleet had destroyed 200 Keth warships in a single battle. The council members were shocked. Species that had seen humans as primitive newcomers suddenly saw them differently. These creatures from the dangerous world called Earth were not simple colonizers. They were warriors, protectors, something the galaxy had never seen before. On the Keth homeworld, the Dominion leaders watched the reports with growing fear. Their fleet was destroyed. Their commander was a prisoner. And the humans were demanding reparations. They would pay. They had no choice. At Station Harmony 7, the repairs continued for days. Human engineers worked alongside Valori and Makari and other species. They rebuilt what had been broken. They replaced what had been destroyed. They turned a battlefield back into a home. Lieutenant Yunhana woke up in a medical bay aboard the Indomitable. Her wound had been treated properly. She would recover fully. But she had lost a lot of blood and needed rest. Corporal Shin Yunji sat beside her bed. Yunji's hands were bandaged from burns she had received during the fighting. She was supposed to be resting too, but she refused to leave her friend. "You scared me," Yunji said softly. "I thought you were going to die at that console." Hannah smiled weakly. "The signal had to stay active. The fleet had to find us. You are stubborn. I am human." They laughed together, and it felt good. They were alive. Against all odds, they were alive. In a different part of the station, Captain Doyen stood at a window and watched the stars. The Keth ships were gone, escorted away by human cruisers. The eternal conquest would never threaten anyone again. Sergeant Beak Jiwoo walked up beside him. Her arm was in a sling. 3 of her fingers had been broken during the fighting. She did not complain about the pain. 6 people, she said quietly. "We lost 6. I know their names," Doyen replied. "Kim Junwoo, Cha Suyao, Moon Haijin, In Dongyuk, Seo Mina, Yang Chanwoo." He paused. "I will remember them forever. They died heroes. They died doing what humans do, protecting others, standing firm when everything's set to run." Dohyun looked at Jiwoo. "Their families will know what they did. The whole galaxy will know." 2 weeks later, a ceremony was held on Earth. The 6 fallen soldiers were honored with full military funerals. Their names were carved into a memorial wall that held thousands of other names. Humans who had died protecting others across the galaxy. Admiral Kang spoke at the ceremony. Her words were broadcast to every human colony. These 6 soldiers gave everything for people they barely knew. They did not ask if those people were human. They did not ask if rescue was possible. They simply stood their ground and fought until the end. That is who we are. That is what makes us human. Ambassador Thivix watched the broadcast from his home on the Valori homeworld. He had returned safely thanks to the humans. He would never forget what he had witnessed. He had a new message to share with his people. A message about the species called humanity. They were dangerous. They were stubborn. They were sometimes foolish. But they would never abandon those who needed them. They would cross the galaxy for strangers. They would die for people they had never met. The message spread across the Galactic Council. Other species heard the story of Station Harmony 7 and understood. Humans were not conquerors. They were protectors, but they protected fiercely. And anyone who threatened those under their care would face the full fury of a species that had learned to survive on a world that tried to kill them every day. Lieutenant Hana sent a final message to Earth. Command before leaving the Indomitable. Situation resolved. Thank you for coming. The response came back within seconds. Always. It was just one word. But it said everything. Humans never left anyone behind. That was their promise. That was their strength. And the galaxy was finally beginning to understand what that meant. The stars themselves seemed to tear apart as the human fleet arrived. 300 warships exploded out of slipspace in perfect formation. They came in waves, each wave more terrifying than the last. Destroyers appeared first, small and fast. Then cruisers bristling with weapons. Then the battleships, massive vessels of steel and fire that made the Keth ships look like toys. At the center of the formation flew the flagship, the UES Indomitable. It was 3 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. On its bridge, Admiral Cam Mireille stood with her hands clasped behind her back. She was a small woman, barely 160 centimeters tall. Her hair was gray. Her face showed lines from decades of service, but her eyes were sharp and cold like winter ice. "Signal all ships," she said. Her voice was calm and quiet. "Battle formation Alpha. Weapons hot." Around her, officers moved quickly and efficiently. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. The United Earth Response Fleet existed for one purpose only: to rescue humans in danger, anywhere in the galaxy, at any cost. The communications officer opened all frequencies. Admiral Kang spoke clearly into the silence. "This is Admiral Kang Mireille of the United Earth Navy. I am addressing the Keth forces surrounding station. Harmony 7. You have attacked the station under human protection. You have killed human citizens. You have one chance to withdraw your forces and leave this sector immediately. If you refuse, we will destroy you." On the Eternal Conquest, Commander Vithrak stared at the tactical display. Red dots representing human ships filled the screen. There were so many. Too many. His officers waited for orders. None of them spoke. The bridge was silent except for the hum of machinery. "Commander," the old advisor said carefully, "perhaps we should consider—" "No." Vithrak stood up from his chair. His mandibles clicked together angrily. "We are the Keth Dominion. We do not run from anyone. We have 200 warships. We will fight." "Commander, the human ships are—" I gave an order. Vithrak's voice was sharp as a blade. "All ships, attack formation. Destroy the human fleet." The Keth fleet moved forward. 200 warships advanced in tight formations, their weapons charging with deadly energy. They had won many battles. They had conquered many worlds. They believed they would win again. They were wrong. Captain No Taiwan commanded the battleship Soul's Fury. He watched the Keth ships approach and felt something that might have been pity. They did not understand what they were facing. They could not understand. "All batteries, fire at will," he ordered. The Soul's Fury opened fire. Massive railguns hurled metal slugs at incredible speeds. Energy beams cut through space like knives of light. Missiles launched in swarms, each one seeking Keth targets with cold precision. Around him, the rest of the human fleet did the same. The first Keth ships exploded in seconds. Their shields could not stop the human weapons. Their armor cracked like glass under the assault. Fire and debris spread across the void. The Keth fired back. Their pulse cannons scored hits on human ships. The Soul's Fury shook as enemy fire struck her hull. Alarms sounded. Damage reports flooded in. Taiwan did not flinch. "Continue firing." All ahead full. The Soul's Fury drove straight into the heart of the Keth formation. Other human ships followed. They did not circle and fire from distance like sensible species did. They charged directly at the enemy, accepting damage, dealing more. On the Eternal Conquest, Vithrak watched his fleet die. Ship after ship vanished from his tactical display. The humans fought like mad creatures, with no regard for their own safety. One human destroyer took multiple hits. Its engines were damaged. Its weapons were failing. Any reasonable crew would retreat or surrender. The destroyer aimed itself at a Keth cruiser and accelerated. At the last moment, the crew escaped in pods. The destroyer slammed into the cruiser at full speed. Both ships exploded. Vithrak could not believe what he was seeing. They sacrificed their ship, deliberately. "That is a human tactic, Commander," the old advisor said quietly. "When they cannot win with a ship, they use it as a weapon. They call it a fighting withdrawal. That is insane. Yes, but effective. The battle lasted 2 hours. When it ended, the Keth fleet had been reduced to less than 50 ships. Thousands of Keth soldiers were dead. Their commander's great confidence had turned to dust. Admiral Kang studied the tactical display with satisfaction. The human fleet had lost 12 ships and suffered damage to many others. But they had won, decisively. "Signal the remaining Keth ships," she said. "Tell them this is their final chance to surrender." The communications officer sent the message. Minutes passed. Then, Commander Vithrak's face appeared on the main screen. He looked different now. His shell seemed duller. His dark eyes had lost their cruel gleam. Defeat hung on him like a heavy weight. "We surrender," he said simply. "What are your terms?" "You will power down all weapons. You will stand down all soldiers. You will submit to human custody until the Galactic Council can arrange a formal tribunal. Any resistance will result in the destruction of your remaining ships." Vithrak hesitated. His pride screamed at him to refuse. But his pride had already cost him 200 ships and thousands of soldiers. He had nothing left to fight with. "Agreed," he said. The word tasted like poison. Admiral Kang nodded once. "Wise decision." She turned to her officers. "Send rescue teams to Station Harmony 7 immediately. I want every human and civilian evacuated and treated. And contact Captain Park. Tell him his people did well." Inside the station, Captain Do-hyun received the message. He read it slowly, then looked up at his exhausted team. They had fought for 20 hours without rest. They were wounded, tired, and broken. But they were alive. "We won," he said quietly. Sergeant Baek Ji-woo let out a breath she had been holding for what felt like forever. "How many?" 300 ships came for us. The Keth fleet is destroyed." The humans looked at each other. Some laughed. Some cried. Some simply sat down where they were, too exhausted to move. Lieutenant Yoon-hana smiled despite her pain. Her wound had been bandaged, but she needed surgery. She did not care. They had done it. They had held the station. Corporal Yoonji checked on her patients one more time. The wounded were stable. They would survive to see another day. Ambassador Thivex walked among the humans with wonder in his eyes. 20 hours ago, he had believed they were all going to die. Now rescue ships were approaching. Now they were safe. He stopped beside Captain Do-hyun. "Captain, I do not know what to say. You saved us all." Don shook his head. "We just held the line, Ambassador. Our fleet did the real work. But you held it. 40 against thousands. No other species could have done what you did. Maybe." Do-hyun looked out the window at the approaching human ships. "Or maybe other species just never had to. We come from a hard world, Ambassador. We learned to fight. We learned to survive. And we learned that together, we are stronger than alone." The first rescue shuttle docked with the station. Human soldiers poured out, carrying medical supplies and fresh weapons. They embraced their exhausted comrades. They treated the wounded. They secured the station level by level. The Keth were finished. Their great invasion had become their greatest defeat. And across the galaxy, other species watched and wondered. Who were these humans? How could so few resist so many? They would learn soon enough. The humans were just getting started. 18 hours had passed since the first attack. The station was filled with the smell of smoke and blood. Emergency lights flickered in damaged corridors. The sounds of distant gunfire echoed through the metal walls. "Lieutenant." Yoon-hana pressed her hand against the wound in her side and kept working. The pain was bad, but she had learned to push it away. Her console showed the positions of all human teams. Red dots for enemies. Blue dots for friends. There were many more red dots than blue. Team 3, Move to Junction 7, she said into her communicator. Keth forces are pushing through Section 12. Copy that, Lieutenant. The voice belonged to Private Gong Tiemann. He was 22 years old. He had been stationed here to gain experience in a peaceful assignment. Now he was fighting for his life. Corporal Shin Yoonji knelt beside Hana and examined her wound. Yoonji's face was covered in dirt and dried blood. Her medical supplies were almost gone. She had been treating injuries for hours without rest. This needs proper treatment, Yoonji said. You are losing too much blood. Later, Hana replied. I have to keep the communications running. You could die. Then I die working. Hana did not look away from her screen. The signal to Earth must stay active. That is all that matters. Yoonji wanted to argue. She wanted to force Hana to rest. But she understood. They all understood. The mission was more important than any single person in the civilian shelter. Ambassador Thivix watched the humans with growing amazement. He had lived for over 200 years. He had met hundreds of species. He thought he understood the galaxy. He was wrong. A group of Valori children sat in the corner, crying softly. They were scared. They wanted their parents. Some of their parents were already dead, killed in the first attack before the humans could organize the defense. A human soldier sat down beside them. His name was Corporal Wang Sung-ho. He was a large man with a kind face. He had a deep cut across his forehead that was still bleeding. Hey, Sung-ho said softly. It is okay. You are safe here. The children did not understand his words. Valori did not speak standard well, but they understood his tone. They understood his smile. One small child reached out and touched his hand. Sung-ho flinched. His hand was burned from an explosion earlier. The touch hurt, but he did not pull away. He held the child's small fingers gently and kept smiling. Thivix felt something change inside him. These humans were dying to protect people they had never met. People who were not even the same species. Why would anyone do that? He walked to where Captain Do-hyun was studying a map of the station. The human captain looked exhausted. His uniform was torn and stained. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. But he stood straight, and his voice was still strong. Captain Park, Thivix said, I must ask you something. Do-hyun looked up. Yes, Ambassador? Why are you doing this? Your people are dying. You cannot possibly win. The Keth will overwhelm you eventually. Why not surrender and save the lives you can save? Do-hyun was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was calm and serious. Ambassador, do you know what makes humans different from other species? I am beginning to think I do not know anything about humans. We are not stronger than most species. We are not faster. We do not live as long as the Valori or see as well as the Makari. But we have one thing that no other species seems to have. What is that? We will die for strangers. Do-hyun looked at the aliens in the shelter. Your people asked for help. You sent a message to the Galactic Council asking for protection. They sent us 40 humans on a peaceful station. And now the Keth are here. But you could have abandoned us. You could have escaped on the emergency shuttles. No, Do-hyun shook his head. We could not. Because you asked for help. That is enough. That is all we need. Thivix did not understand. His species had survived for thousands of years by avoiding conflict. They surrendered when they could not win. They accepted losses to prevent greater losses. It was logical. It was sensible. Humans were not logical. Humans were not sensible. Humans were something else entirely. On the Eternal Conquest, Commander Vithrak read the latest reports with frustration. He had lost nearly 400 soldiers. 400. The humans had lost only 6. The numbers made no sense. Why are they still fighting? he demanded. They must know they cannot win. His old advisor stood nearby. Commander, I have been studying human history. Their species has fought wars constantly. They fight each other. They fight nature. They fight everything. And they never surrender easily. That is madness. Perhaps. But there is something else. The advisor pulled up records on the main screen. Humans have a concept they call never leave anyone behind. It is central to their military culture. They will risk entire armies to save one soldier. They will sacrifice themselves to recover their dead. What purpose does that serve? It serves no practical purpose, but it inspires their soldiers to fight harder. Every human knows that their people will come for them, no matter where they are, no matter how dangerous it is. Vithrak looked at the screen showing the station. The humans were still holding. Somehow, impossibly, 40 soldiers were stopping his invasion. Commander, another officer called out. Long-range sensors are detecting something. What is it? Slipspace signatures. Multiple contacts. They are approaching fast. Vithrak turned to the sensor station. How many contacts? The officer's voice trembled slightly. Over 300, Commander. They are coming from the direction of the Sol system. The bridge fell silent. 300 ships. From Earth, traveling over 4,000 light-years in less than 20 hours. That is impossible, Vithrak said. No fleet can travel that fast. The old advisor spoke quietly. The humans built their entire slipspace network around one principle. Commander, speed. They designed their engines to reach any human colony within hours. They did this specifically for situations like this. Why would they waste resources on such a system? Because no human is ever truly alone. That is their belief. That is their strength. Vithrak watched the sensor screen as the contacts grew closer. 300 human warships were racing toward his fleet. They would arrive soon. He had 200 ships. The humans would have more. And he had seen what 40 humans could do. What would happen when thousands arrived? For the first time in his military career, Commander Vithrak considered retreat. On the station, Lieutenant Yoon Hana received a message on her console. She read it twice to make sure she understood. Then she began to cry. Corporal Yoonji rushed to her side. Hana, what is wrong? Are you hurt? Hana shook her head. She was smiling through her tears. No, nothing is wrong. She looked up at Yoonji with shining eyes. They are coming. The fleet is coming. They will be here in 2 hours. The news spread through the station like fire. Humans shouted and cheered. They hugged each other and laughed. Some of them cried to Ambassador Thivex watched them celebrate. 2 hours ago, these people were preparing to die. Now they were filled with joy because their people were coming. He finally understood what made humans special. It was not their strength or their stubbornness or their ability to survive impossible injuries. It was their connection to each other. A bond so strong that they would cross the galaxy to protect it. The Keth had no idea what they had awakened, but they would learn soon. Commander Vithrak sat in his chair on the bridge of the Eternal Conquest and studied the data screens in front of him. His advisors had gathered files about humans from the Galactic database. He wanted to understand his enemy before crushing them completely. Deathworld origin species, he read aloud. Planet Earth, classification, Category 12. The old advisor with gray patches on his shell leaned forward. Category 12 is the highest danger rating, Commander. Only 3 known species come from worlds that hostile. Vithrak clicked his mandibles together in annoyance. Continue. Earth has extreme conditions. Gravity is 1.2 times the galactic standard. The planet experiences constant natural disasters. The native life includes thousands of apex predators. Humans evolved alongside creatures that could kill them in seconds. Yet they have no armor, no natural weapons. No, Commander. But the file says they developed other traits. They can survive injuries that would kill most species. Their bodies repair themselves quickly. They can function without sleep for extended periods. And they have something called adrenaline. What is that? A chemical their bodies produce when threatened. It increases their strength, speed, and pain tolerance. It makes them more dangerous when they are in danger, not less. Vithrak was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed again. Interesting biology. But biology does not win wars. Numbers win wars. Technology wins wars. Strategy wins wars. We have all three. They have 40 soldiers and no ships. He gave the order to begin boarding operations. On Station Harmony 7, the first Keth shuttle connected to Docking Bay 4. The bay doors opened and 50 Keth soldiers marched inside. They carried pulse rifles. They wore heavy armor. Each one stood over 2 meters tall with 6 limbs and hard shells that could stop most bullets. They expected to find crying civilians and frightened humans ready to surrender. Instead, they found an empty bay. The squad leader looked around carefully. Something was wrong. His instincts told him to be careful. But his orders were clear. He signaled his soldiers to advance. They made it 12 steps before the world exploded. Sergeant Beek Jiwoo had spent 4 hours placing explosive devices throughout the docking bay. She had used materials from the station's maintenance supplies. She had learned to make bombs when she was 18 years old, during the Mars colony uprising. She was very good at her job. The explosions tore through the Keth squad. Bodies flew through the air. Armor cracked. Screams echoed off the metal walls. When the smoke cleared, only 11 Keth soldiers were still alive. They stumbled forward, confused and hurt. That was when the humans attacked. Captain Do-hyun led the charge himself. He carried a simple ballistic rifle, old technology by galactic standards. But the bullets it fired moved faster than Keth reflexes could follow. 3 soldiers fell before they could raise their weapons. Corporal Shin Yoonji moved beside her captain. She was the team's medic, but on a human team, everyone was a fighter. She fired her weapon with calm precision. Each shot found its target. The surviving Keth tried to fight back. They were trained soldiers. They had won many battles, but they had never faced humans before. One Keth swung his armored claw at a human soldier. The human ducked under the blow and drove a knife into the gap between the Keth's shell plates. The alien screamed and collapsed. Another Keth fired his pulse rifle. The shot hit a human in the shoulder. The human grunted, spun around, and kept shooting. Blood ran down his arm. He did not stop. In 3 minutes, the first boarding party was destroyed. On the Eternal Conquest, Commander Vithrak received the report with disbelief. 50 soldiers, gone. He stood up from his chair. How is this possible? The humans used explosive traps, Commander. Then they attacked the survivors directly. 1 human was shot. Why did he not fall? The advisor checked the biological data again. Humans can continue functioning with severe injuries. Their bodies prioritize survival above all else. They feel pain but can ignore it temporarily. Vithrak's mandibles clicked rapidly. This was anger. Send 200 soldiers. Full assault protocol. No more games. The second wave launched from the Keth fleet. 4 shuttles carrying 50 soldiers each. They approached different docking bays, spreading the human defenders thin. Inside the station, Do-hyun received the reports from his lookouts. 4 entry points, he said quietly. We cannot cover them all. We have to try, Jiwoo said. She was reloading her weapon. Her hands were steady. We will. Do-hyun divided his small force into teams. 10 humans for each docking bay. It was not enough. It would have to be enough. In the civilian shelter, 2,000 aliens waited in fear. Ambassador Thimix stood near the door, watching the humans prepare for battle. He could not understand what he was seeing. These creatures should be terrified. They should be surrendering. They should be begging for mercy. Instead, they checked their weapons, made jokes with each other, and smiled like they were enjoying themselves. Lieutenant Yunhana sat at a portable communication station. Her job was to maintain contact between all human teams and keep the emergency beacon running. She had not slept in 16 hours. Her eyes were red and tired. She did not complain. "Lieutenant," Thimix said, approaching her carefully. "May I ask you something?" Hannah looked up. "Of course, Ambassador. Why do you fight? You cannot win. There are too many of them." Hannah was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled sadly. "Do you know what my grandmother told me when I was a child? She said that humans are not the strongest species. We are not the fastest. We are not the smartest. But we are the most stubborn." "Stubborn?" "We do not give up, ever, even when we should." Hannah returned to her console. "My people have a saying. It is better to die standing than to live kneeling. We learned that lesson a long time ago." The second wave of Keth soldiers entered the station. This time, the fighting was harder. The Keth had learned from the first attack. They moved carefully, checking for traps. They used their superior numbers to push forward slowly. But the humans had learned too. They did not stand and fight in one place. They attacked, retreated, attacked again from a different direction. They used the station's corridors like a maze, leading the Keth into dead ends and crossfire zones. Jiwoo ran through a maintenance tunnel, her heart pounding. She could hear Keth soldiers behind her. She reached a junction and stopped. She pressed herself against the wall and waited. The first Keth came around the corner. She shot him in the face. The second one raised his weapon. She dropped to the ground and fired upward, hitting him under his chin where the armor was weak. The third one grabbed her arm. She felt bones crack. Pain exploded through her body. She screamed but did not stop fighting. Her free hand pulled a knife from her belt. She stabbed the Keth again and again until he let go. Then she ran. Hours passed. The fighting continued. The Keth lost soldier after soldier. The humans lost people too. 3 dead, 7 wounded. But they did not retreat. They did not surrender. On the Eternal Conquest, Commander Vithrek watched the reports with growing unease. He had sent 250 soldiers into that station. Only 80 were still alive. The humans had lost only 3. How is this possible? He whispered. His old advisor spoke carefully. "Commander, there is something else in the human file. Something I think you should know." "What?" "Humans are classified as persistence predators. On their homeworld, they did not catch prey by being faster or stronger. They chased their prey for hours, for days, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion." The advisor paused. "Humans do not stop, Commander. They keep coming until they win or they are all dead." Vithrek stared at the screen showing the station. Somewhere inside, 40 humans were holding his entire fleet at bay. For the first time, he felt something cold in his chest. It might have been doubt. It might have been fear. The alarm screamed through Station Harmony 7 like the cries of a dying animal. Red lights flashed in every corridor, every room, every corner of the massive orbital platform that floated at the edge of Galactic Council space. Captain Park Doyen stood at the command center window and watched the enemy ships appear. They came out of slipspace one after another, their dark hulls blocking out the distant stars. He counted them silently in his head. 50, 100, 150, 200. 200 Keth warships now surrounded the station. Behind him, The alien diplomats and civilians were screaming. The Valori, a peaceful species of tall, thin beings with soft blue skin, held their children close. The Makari, small creatures covered in golden fur, huddled together in corners. None of them had ever seen war this close. Dahin turned away from the window. His face showed no fear. His eyes were calm and steady like deep water. "Lieutenant Yoon," he said. A young woman looked up from her communications console. Yoon Hannah had been assigned to this station 6 months ago. She was supposed to handle routine messages and diplomatic communications. She never expected this. "Yes, Captain?" Her voice shook slightly, but she controlled it. "How many humans do we have on this station?" Hannah checked her records quickly. 40, sir. Including us." Dahin nodded slowly. 40 humans among 2,000 alien civilians. No military ships. No heavy weapons. Just a small security team meant to handle minor problems, not a full invasion. Ambassador Thivix pushed through the crowd of frightened aliens. The elderly Valori diplomat was taller than any human, but right now he seemed small. His blue skin had turned pale with fear. His 4 eyes were wide and wet. "Captain Park," Thivix said, his voice trembling. "The Keth Dominion has never attacked a neutral station before. This is against all galactic law. This is impossible. And yet they are here," Dahin said simply. The main screen flickered. A new face appeared on it. The face was not human. It was not Valori or Mikari either. It was KETH. Commander Vithrak of the Keth Dominion looked like something from a nightmare. His head was covered in a hard black shell. His eyes were large and completely dark, like pools of oil. His mouth had 4 parts that moved separately when he spoke. Behind him, other Keth officers stood in perfect rows on their bridge. "Attention, Station Harmony 7, Vithrak said. His voice was cold and sharp. "You are now under the control of the Keth Dominion. You will surrender all personnel and resources within 1 hour. If you refuse, we will destroy your station and everyone inside it." The room fell silent. Even the crying children stopped making sounds. Everyone stared at the screen. Vithrak continued. "Do not hope for rescue. No fleet can reach you in time. No species will risk war with us for 1 small station. Your situation is hopeless. Accept this truth and surrender." The screen went dark. Ambassador Thivix fell to his knees. "It is over," he whispered. "We are finished. The Keth are merciless. They will kill us all." Other aliens began to cry and wail. Some prayed to gods that Dahin had never heard of. Some simply sat down and waited for death. But Do-yoon did not move. He stood perfectly still for a long moment, his eyes focused on something far away. Then he turned to Hannah. "Lieutenant Yoon." "Sir? Is our emergency beacon still working?" Hannah's fingers moved across her console. "Yes, sir. The Keth haven't destroyed it yet. Can you reach Earth from here?" The room went quiet again. Every alien looked at the human captain with confusion. Earth was over 4,000 light years away. Even the fastest ships would take days to travel that distance. Help from Earth was impossible. But Hannah did not question her captain. "I can send an emergency signal, sir. It will reach United Earth Command. Do it now." "What message should I send?" Do-hyun thought for only a second. "Send code phrase Delta 7. Then add 3 words. Deathworlders needed here." Hannah's eyes widened slightly, but she nodded. Her fingers typed the message quickly. She pressed the send button. The signal shot out into space at faster than light speeds, racing toward distant Earth. On the Keth flagship, a communications officer noticed the transmission. He reported it to Commander Vithrak immediately. Vithrak read the intercepted message and laughed. The sound was harsh and ugly, like metal scraping against metal. "Deathworlders," he repeated. The humans are calling for help from their homeworld. He turned to his officers. How pathetic. Do they truly believe anyone will come? Earth is too far away. By the time any rescue force arrives, this station will be dust and memories. One of his advisors, an older Keth with gray patches on his shell, spoke carefully. Commander, the humans are classified as a Deathworld species in the Galactic database. Perhaps we should. Should what? Vithrek interrupted. Fear them? They are soft creatures. They have no natural armor. No claws, no venom. I have seen their files. They are weak compared to us. The files also say they are dangerous, Commander. Dangerous? Vithrek waved his claw dismissively. There are only 40 of them on that station. We have 20,000 soldiers ready to board. What can 40 humans do against the might of the Keth Dominion? Back on the station, Ambassador Thivex approached Captain Do-hyun. The old diplomat's hands were shaking. Captain, please, tell me the truth. Is there any hope? Will your people really come? Do-hyun looked at the frightened alien. He saw the fear in those 4 eyes. He saw the same fear in every alien face around him. They had given up already. They believed they were going to die. The human captain put his hand on the ambassador's thin shoulder. Ambassador, let me tell you something about humans. We come from a world that tried to kill us every single day. Our planet has earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, and floods. It has animals with teeth and claws and poison. It has diseases that can wipe out millions. And yet, we survived. We did not just survive. We conquered that world. Thivex stared at him. I do not understand. What does this mean for us? Do-hyun smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator. It means that we never abandon our own. It means that somewhere out there, right now, ships are already turning toward us. It means that the Keth have made the worst mistake of their lives. He turned to his security team. 38 other humans stood ready, their eyes hard and determined. We hold this station until our fleet arrives. Whatever it takes. Whatever the cost. Sergeant Beek Jiwoo stepped forward. She was a small woman, but her voice was strong. What are your orders, Captain? Prepare defensive positions. Gather every weapon we have. Protect the civilians at all costs. Do-hyun looked at the aliens huddled around them. These people are under our protection now. The Keth want them? They will have to go through us first. The humans moved with purpose and speed. They did not cry. They did not pray. They prepared for war. Ambassador Thivex watched them with wonder and confusion. How could 40 people stand against 200 warships? How could they have hope when hope was impossible? He did not understand humans yet, but he would.